Hello, and welcome to episode 110 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom, Alessandro Welsi. Say hello, Al.
I'd like my business cards to read Last of the Gentlemen Sleuths.
This week's episode, widows, secret agents, pet peeves, what we're watching, and other news and nuggets, all before diving into our flick of the week, Knives Out, the long-awaited Knives Out. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking the second part of... Hang on a second. How did this happen? I have
this just in.
I have two iterations of my show notes open at the same time. I don't know how that happened. I definitely don't need two. I only need one. We're drinking the second...
You are the little man on the beer being abducted. That's you.
I guess so. We're drinking the second iteration of the Captain Lawrence Powder Dreams. This one is the black can.
Oh, baby.
Triple dry hopped Powder Dreams. You all missed, at least I hope you missed, because I don't think Anthony recorded it, the sexual sounds I was making when I cracked this baby open, because it was a veritable orgy of hops in my nose.
Oh my god, it smells so good.
It's an Imperial New England IPA, triple dry hopped with Mosaic, Citra, and Amarillo Lupulin powder, which I learned after we were done recording that last episode, is basically just ground up and turned into a resin hops. So it takes way less space up, and it's typically used for dry hopping. You could use it for the boil, but having the less volume doesn't really make that big of a difference for that. But for the dry hop, it makes sense to have something that's much more efficiently delivering all that hop goodness to your nose.
Interesting. I'm more than ready to try this one.
Are you now?
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it's everything I want and more. It's so good.
Yep.
It's one of those ones, like, well, first off, the can looks amazing. So,
yes.
I can't understate this enough. The little man being abducted by aliens is some of the greatest can art that we've seen so far.
I'm a little curious about why that is a thing, but I approve.
The aroma when that can cracks is just something special. And then just the look of this beer in the glass, it's, like this is an Anthony beer, right? Like
yes.
This is, you look at this and you're like, oh, there's no chance that this wouldn't be one of his favorites.
Oh yeah, New England IPA, Citra hops, little green alien guys. Did you remember it?
Powder Dreams. Wait a minute.
Did you remember it when I said it? That this is the one that I remember opening, and I was just like, oh yeah. It was like getting punched in the nose, like from across the room.
And when Iron Man, when he gets his new piece, oh yeah, it tastes like coconut. It doesn't taste like coconut, but it is delightful.
This one is so damn good. All of the things that we said about the last one, this one's even more that.
I'm just really glad that I shut down the suggestion that you made. I don't even know why I let you take that beer home. The beer that we were going to do, you should just be thrown away. It's really not good.
That's one of like the dented ones too. I wish the other one survived.
Yeah, the other one wasn't great either. I had a few misses, unfortunately.
How dare you? You know what? I'm glad that you said that. You know what? I've had this one. Not good enough. Does not warrant this episode. I'm much happier with this beer in general. I'm much happier about the powdering, the pairing of this and the movie we're doing.
Absolutely,
this is all delightful.
This is perfect. So, shall we get into some news and nuggets?
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
All right, let's talk about. I want to throw a couple of things out right up front.
Well, hang on a second. We're doing Mandalorian after the episode again.
Naturally, Manda Watch comes post credits.
Manda Watch post credits, full spoilers. We got to do a little
3 and 4.
Episode 3 and and episode 4, I guess we'll kind of just do them all together as it comes to us, because I have so many Mandalorian thoughts.
Excellent.
First, can I actually interject before you get to your thing? On the topic of Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson, on the topic of The Mandalorian, Rian Johnson said he visited the set, he loves it, and he's like, please let my schedule get clear enough that I can come direct an episode in Season 2.
Yes.
How great would that be?
Give that man what he wants, because he's fucking amazing.
Yes.
Screw
He's
all
totally
your
on board with it. I'm totally on board with him being on board with it.
Absolutely.
That would be cool as shit.
Absolutely.
Continue with your thoughts.
No, it's great. That made me. You got me all riled up.
I meant the thoughts that I just cut off.
No, it's fine. Okay, so here we go. A couple of quick things right up front. It's kind of a grinds my gears situation. Right?
Oh.
And there's 2 of them. It's 2 very, very small ones.
It's great because I got Family Guy on my screen right now.
Perfect.
So. You know what really grinds my gears?
The first thing that really grinds my gears is I scroll. I have a couple of different outlets different apps that I use to collect movie news, and then I go through all of that movie news, and I pick out the things that I find interesting, and then I write like quick notes just for chatting in this section here. While I was doing that, over the last couple of days, there were multiple articles about people being angry that The Grinch was taken off of Netflix before Christmas. Just relax. First off, you all say you hate the movie, so there's that. And 2, if you really like it, buy it. Okay? And that's all.
Wait, the Carrie Grinch or the
Carrie Grinch? The Carrie Grinch.
It's funny because I saw something about people comparing Baby Grinch to Baby Yoda. I said, you shut your fucking mouth right now.
Absolutely. One of those is a national treasure. It's a galactic treasure.
I made what I thought to be a fairly astute observation that my sister concurred with, because she sent me the thing. It was like, someone was like, I gotta find the thing. You continue with your
okay, so that's just a minor thing. Just something I had to say because it was driving me crazy. If you really want if you want to watch a movie on your time and you want to always have it available to you, buy the movie. That's it. It's very simple. The other thing that drives me crazy, I don't know, I've been to 3 movies this past week, and in each of them, there's a new thing happening. So the format used to be you get there early before the time of the movie. You get hit with some mini trailers plus like they're basically TV spots and a couple of shitty commercials, right? Like a Geico commercial, an AT&T commercial. Like you get all that crap. The new pattern is you get that, then the lights go down, then the trailer starts. Another trailer, getting into the zone, then a Google commercial. What? And then another trailer. Then a Geico commercial. What? What is happening? Why are they hijacking my trailer time?
The thing that I noticed, and I brought it up to you, it was the episode that you, me, and Brian did. Was it Hocus Pocus?
Yeah.
And I mentioned that I found it very odd that I got in the midst of my trailers, or it may have been the last of the trailers, is an Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever the hell.
Right.
Commercial. We got another one in this one. I was like, since when?
I will say the only thing with that is it's at least kind of on target. Like it's still media, movie, TV related, which is like it's less offensive to me as just a random Google commercial because I don't watch TV. They had to find a way to get it in front of me. You know what I mean? Like it really bothered me.
It's not that I'm not offended by it. I'm just confused by it. Like it would make sense in that pre-trailer commercial section.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If they did it there, I wouldn't think twice.
Right.
I don't know why I find it odd in that format, in that location. Like
it's my trailer time, though. I'm getting upset.
It's like, well, yeah, it's like one of these things is not like the other. You know what I mean? Like, no, go do your thing over there.
Now I've just realized that basically what it means is that after 2 trailers, I could then go to the bathroom rather than going to the bathroom right before the trailer, because I love seeing the trailers. It's one of my favorite things. We've talked at length about trailers on this show. They're amazing. Now you're gonna throw commercials in there? They are commercials. What are you doing? You're killing me. It's horrible.
See what happens. Your movie going experience is a lot different than my movie going experience. My movie going experience.
The projector worked on mine.
Shh. My movie going experience is I rush to the theater, buy a ticket as the time is supposed to be starting for the movie, which means I'm walking in with the first trailer. Mm-hmm. If I time it perfectly. Sometimes I miss the first trailer. But today, it's walk in 2 minutes after the show is supposed to start, meaning the trailer is supposed to start kicking off, and get told, oh yeah, we can't sell you a ticket, and also we can't screen any movies because none of our things work.
Sick.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
So...
And then I tried to scramble to go to the other theater because they usually have kind of staggered start times where they're like within like 15, 20 minutes of each other. And this was like 10 minutes, but because I was like 2 minutes late by the time I got out to my car, I had 5 minutes to get to a theater that was 15 minutes away.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So instead, I had to watch it tonight, run home, get home even later than I expected, and we're doing this very late, and my notes are going to be god-awful.
I find that our more frazzled episodes are generally better.
You like me in a heightened sense?
I think so, because you're just vibing. You're going off what we got, what we're throwing back and forth. It's fun. It's great.
Well, you have to balance the fresh in your mind, like, I just got out of the theater, let's talk about it, which is kind of the format of the show that we planned it out. But on the other hand, and I think that works really well for certain conversation topics, but there's other things that I think about 3 days from now, and it's like, fuck, I wish we could sit down and have a second recording and find a way to splice them together, because we haven't actually put the episode out, and I have so much better thoughts about something that I just could not access in the time.
Sure. No, I hear you. Well, that's fine, because also on future episodes, we'll reference this movie, and we'll say things about it. So
that's true.
It'll get its time.
Too. We've had kind of mini retroactives on some of these things that have even gone to 10, 15 minutes.
So long story short, get your commercials out of my trailers. That's all.
I just burped pure hops.
Nice. I'm just gonna sip on this beer like some bone broth. It is delicious.
Normally that would have been a really gross burp, but it actually smelled delightful.
It was so fragrant. Oh man, I smelled it over here. Anyway, that's just my pet peeves. Give me something.
Are you all caught up on Watchmen?
No, I am exactly where you left me.
It's so good. It's so good.
Is it?
It's so dark and fucked up and ridiculous, and this is the right episode to have been talking about it, because the can of worms they just opened up with Sunday's episode is ridiculous.
Nice.
With 2 episodes left to go in this season, it's a theory that some people have been kicking around for a while. I won't say what the theory is or what it's referring to.
Okay. It's
one that I kind of had been not fully formed in my mind. Not the specifics, but I was in the neighborhood of it.
Sure.
And I was like, there's enough here that kind of makes sense for all of it, but it just might be too audacious and ridiculous, and no, it wasn't.
Nice.
And it leaves you on this big cliffhanger, and I was like, fuck, No, you've done the thing. We've so many of us have kind of figured it out, and you're giving it to us, but also you've given us a middle finger along with it, because it's no, you gotta wait till next week to get more answers on this. It's no, give me more. It's really fucking good, man. This is, if you were I know you were a little on the fence early on, and you said you didn't love the first episode, but you were intrigued, and then you got into it for the next few episodes. No, you gotta catch back up. It's really fucking.
Yeah, I'm at a weird stage right now where Kim and I watch a lot of things together.
Yeah.
So the time
you guys each have some things you have to watch on your own.
Yeah, so there's some things that I watch on my own, but when I'm with that time, I usually have that split between things I want to watch and things I want to play. And as you know, Jedi Fallen Order has taken precedent. I will say that each day I've been trying to watch an episode of Rebels while I eat lunch, just because I'm really trying. I would really like to get through the rest of it before Rise of Skywalker. And I'm I'm on track, I think. I mean, I'll probably need a couple hours one day to just bang out 4 of them just to
no, if you're doing it most days, you're probably you're coming along at a pretty good clip.
Yeah, it's moving along.
I mean, and it's perfect for lunchtime because it's a 4-minute episode or whatever.
Exactly, it's perfect. The only other thing is I also would like to watch. I was going through the Star Wars movies and I only watched 2 of them. So in that, I mean, I pulled it off with the MCU. I should be able to pull it off with 8 movies. Well, 10. Regardless, it's half the amount of what I had to do last time.
On that note, let me kick it over then, since we can't talk about Watchmen, to something else I want to talk about. Because you mentioned trying to get through all of Rebels and trying to get through the movies, and boy, have I got a topic for you.
Oh boy.
I stumbled on this on the internet. This is from CableTV.com.
Perfect.
Star Wars Movie Marathon. Are you the chosen one? CableTV.com will pay one destined winner $1,000 to watch every Star Wars movie back-to-back before the release of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker on December 20th. You're our only hope.
But I'll just do that. You don't have to pay me.
No. You're not hearing me. Back-to-back.
I'm hearing you. I still feel like it would be better than the Lord of the Rings back-to-back.
No. I love all of my children equally. And that was training for this moment. So you need to. We're looking here. I'm going to read you this whole thing.
Yeah, hit me.
I'm actually going to apply for this because why the fuck wouldn't I?
That's
and anyone
fair.
else, I understand I'm creating competition. If anyone hears this, I'm guessing maybe one person might.
Well, send that to me. I'll do it too.
Okay. We're looking for an entertaining Star Wars junkie with a Chewbacca-sized personality, the wit of Han Solo, and the smarts of Master Yoda. Well, okay, maybe not that smart. The chosen one must be an active Twitter user who is willing to share their Jedi wisdom.
Never mind.
What's that?
I'm not an active Twitter user. You can take it for us.
Yeah. Well, I figured I would be perfect.
Can I apply for you? Can you get like a second vote?
Right? Yeah. Can we have nominations?
Like a dual entry situation?
Willing to share their Jedi wisdom and movie watching experience while tagging the @CableTV team on Twitter. It helps if you're also active on Twitch, Reddit, or other social media. You don't need a degree or any lightsaber licenses, and don't worry, we won't test your midichlorians either. All we ask is you're 18 years or older and a U.S. citizen. You might be too old to start training as a Jedi, but at least you can get paid $1,000 to watch Star Wars. So, you have to watch this is a full Star Wars marathon with every canon movie included. That's 22 hours and 25 minutes worth of ancient, distant galactic glory. Not just any half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder can tune into the Force for that long. You'll watch every single one of the numbered releases, as well as Solo and Rogue One. You can watch them in any order you choose.
The holiday special is not part of it?
No, only canon.
Didn't you say it was canon?
It's not.
Oh.
Although they might have pulled something from it and made it canon, I think, is something we discussed. But,
Is it Bendy Boba Fett?
Life Day. They mentioned Life Day in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
And JFO.
Oh, did they? I forgot. You can watch them in chronological order, release order, or any order at all. We trust you and the Force on this one. So, the submission is, please fill out the form on our application page with 200 words or less about why you're the best choice to watch the space saga for nearly a day straight. Point out parts of your personality that make you stand out from the crowd. Can you telepathically lift an X-Wing from a swamp? Or do you have Palpatine's persuasive powers? Let us know and make you the chosen one. Video submission is not required, but we spend a lot of money on our very own R2 to display holograms of our contestants. So please send videos.
Oh my god. Yeah, you absolutely have to do this.
The bounty and benefits. This gig is a fun, quick way to make cash without selling droids. You'll make about $45 per hour of film watching. Here's what else you'll get with the job. A welcome package complete with all 10 movies on Blu-ray. Bragging rights amongst all the other Trekkies. We're kidding. All work is remote and lasts less than 1 day in total. And you also get this Star Wars welcome package to help you succeed on your mission. Star Wars The Complete Saga on Blu-ray, Solo on Blu-ray, all of these things on Blu-ray, a Nerf Han Solo blaster, a Chewbacca onesie, and an R2-D2 popcorn popper.
Yes.
Applications close Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m., and the job needs to be completed before December 20th in time for the launch of Rise of Skywalker. So the only thing you have to do, if you are chosen by them, is to, in one 24-hour span, watch 22 hours and 25 minutes of Star Wars.
That's intense.
It is, which is why I was saying it's so much more than the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings thing we did was like 10 hours.
It is, but the thing is, I do love Star Wars at a level much higher than Lord of the Rings. So I think I could do it.
I love both of them so very much. I love Lord of the Rings much more than you do, and our Star Wars love is roughly comparable. I would not.
All I'm hearing is, in a pinch, I can finish watching these movies before. That's what I got out of it.
Incentive to do it.
You come here on the, what is it, the 19th? When have we seen it? The earliest you can see it is basically when we're seeing it. Where you come here that day, and I'm just like fried, and my hair is like standing on end. I've got like pizza grease on my face. I'm like, I just finished all of them.
There's no way you'd be able to survive watching 9.
No, I'd fall asleep. It would be a tragedy.
Yes, 8 minutes in.
It would be like after the opening crazies.
You know what?
I would fall asleep.
I'm not appreciating yet.
What's that?
I'm not ready for the title scroll episode.
I will never ever forget when we were so speculative of like, what's the deal with Luke? And it's like, Luke's gone missing. Oh! We're just going to answer some questions right away. I appreciate that.
Like, could you imagine if it was just like, guys, shit's real. Sit back and enjoy.
Yeah. You know what's happened so far. This is it. Dun, 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 dun. A long time ago, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to it. Roll it again. What if that happened? If that was like the ultimate troll, like if they do the scroll and then he says that, they cut to the actual footage of him at the announcement and they actually roll the title screen again.
There in the theater.
In your theater, every theater at the same time. Clone Wars. Make it happen. Oh my god. Give me something else because I'm all over the place.
Oh, okay. Quick update on. I know you haven't been watching it, but I know we discussed it, and you were not so much interested in watching the show yourself, but just in my take on the show. His Dark Materials. And so now I've found that I almost perfectly nailed what I said to you when we first discussed it. The first couple episodes were going to be slow because they have a lot of world building to set up, like just a fuck ton of it.
Okay.
The middle of the show is when it starts picking up, and like I said, basically the middle of the first book to like the middle of the second book or so is like my absolute favorite section of the whole trilogy, and we're just kicking that part of it off because I think we just watched the fourth or fifth one. I didn't finish watching this week's. I'm halfway through this week's episode. And yeah, things picked up.
Nice.
The Lin-Manuel Miranda character showed up. I was absolutely right that he is horribly miscast as that character. That being said, he is enjoyable.
He's just so charming. Doing. I think that's what it is.
Yes, like, he's having a really good time, so I'm having a good time.
Right.
It's just not that character.
I understand.
So it's, like, if he was bad, it would really be ruining it for me, but he's good and fun, so it's not completely ruining it for me. I'm just a little disappointed. But, like I said, this is, like, if I can't get what it's supposed to be, this isn't a bad consolation prize. But he's kind of like slapstick and like having fun and like cracking jokes and like just like being extra, and that's like 150% not the character. So whatever, it's fine. And like I said, I thought it was odd. Like they were
just a weird choice.
Already introducing the beginning of what's supposed to be the beginning of the second book. And they're, like, starting to do it in earnest. They've been teasing it, hinting at it, and I thought maybe that's what they were going to do, is just kind of, like, setting the table for it so they could get, like, right up off the ground running. No. In this week's episode, they started splitting it, like, 70-30, the actual storyline for Golden Compass / Northern Lights, and the beginning of the Subtle Knife's storyline. And it's probably the right thing to do, because they can then, in the second... as they get to the second, although I wonder how they may slice up the end of this exactly. Like, they have been pacing it properly where Lyra's story should end properly at the end of book one, where it does in this. But by necessity, I think they're gonna have to shift it around where most of season 2 will then have to be 70% Will's story and 30% Lyra's story until they finally meet. And I know it's a little bit of a spoiler for everyone, but you can kind of see that's where it's going to go eventually. Because there's, like, voiceover, like, narration of the two characters at one point, and it's like, there's a prophecy of a girl who has to do, like, the whole world, all of the worlds, rest on her and her decisions. She must carry a terrible burden and do terrible things, but if she's told those things... she won't be able to do them. So they have to kind of blind lead her through it. The people who are aware of these things know she has to do it, start to feel fairly confident that she's the one, but know that they have to not tell her because otherwise everything will be ruined.
Sure.
And most of these people don't actually even know what the prophecy is calling for. They don't know if it's going to be a net positive or negative. No. They just know it's important.
It's pretty standard.
But part of the prophecy is... that she won't have to do it alone.
Okay.
There's a boy who will help her to shoulder that burden. And as they're narrating that, they're flipping between the two of them. So you know that the two of them are eventually going to have to meet. So yeah, it's good. For a couple episodes now, it's picked up exactly as it should.
Okay.
Things are happening, stories happening. We're not just, and this is a thing, and this is another person. And
sure.
And, there's still some introductions, but it's like, oh, I want to know what that person's about.
Yeah,
you know
but
what
it's
I mean?
Like, all right, so here's a question then. you say Lin-Manuel Miranda's character, like he's not the right casting choice for the character. What do you think went into the decision, or do you know at all? Like, was it something like, is he a fan and wanted to be a part of it?
I have no earthly idea. I should probably look into that.
I'd be curious to see, because if you feel so strongly that like, because the thing is, you like him, which is another interesting thing, right? You're just saying that he's not the right casting choice.
He's just 100% the wrong person for the role.
So I'd be curious how they got there, or how. I don't know.
The personality of the character he's playing is mostly not correct right now. He's kind of doing and saying the right things as far as like where he fits into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But he's supposed to be. The one part of it he's gotten right is he's jaded. But he's got this like happy, peppy thing that he's doing. He's doing like a Broadway showman thing,
right? And
he's supposed to be a very stead, like. Kind of picture the Mandalorian, actually, like a classic Western character, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I said, they actually completely fucking nailed it, outside of maybe picking a guy who was 5 or 10 years too old the first time around in the movie. Like I said, the only thing that movie got right was the casting. They nailed the casting of Lord Asriel and Miss Coulter and of Lee Scoresby. And Lee Scoresby was played by Sam Elliott in the movie. And
very different people.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's supposed to be this tall, lanky dude who's seen some shit.
It's just like not fair though. Like Sam Elliott is 2 actors. You know, it's like him and his mustache. Like it's 2. It's amazing.
He's got the talent of 2. The character is supposed to have a big mustache. Like he was perfect in every sense of the word.
I'm kind of curious about it. I think I might. Maybe I'll just read those books. I don't know. I've been getting into reading lately, as you know. So maybe I'll give that a go.
I mean, they're not short books, but they're not super long.
That's fine.
Either. They're like, 400 or 500 page books, not like 800,000 page books.
I just finished the whole Harry Potter series. I'm actually finishing. I'm reading through the play right now, which is actually pretty good. I didn't really know anything about it beforehand, but I'm enjoying it.
I don't really have any interest in reading it because she didn't actually write it.
I honestly, I don't really care so much about. I don't know anything about that. All I know is like it's just the way that I feel like the material's probably kind of evolved beyond the person that created it at this point because of how much it's taken on with the movies and the atmosphere in Universal and like things like that. Like I don't know, it's just like it is its own thing at this point. Like it kind of stands on its own.
I don't know. She's got her hand directly on the wheels as far as like the Fantastic Beasts like movies. Like she's directly involved in writing and producing that.
But you don't love those movies though.
I don't.
So
but
I don't know.
The reason I was willing to give it the time of day is because she was directly involved.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like what's happening here. It feels a little fan servicey in that it's like it's not a story that needs to be told so far. I don't know where it's going to go. So far, it's not a story that needs to be told. It's just like hey, we missed the universe and we wanted to go back to it. That's what it feels like. Which is I'm actually okay with.
We've had that conversation vis-a-vis Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad,
sure,
Solo, stuff like that, where you can do the story that doesn't need to be told as long as you do it well.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. I think so far, from where I'm at, I think it's being done well. I just don't think it adds much. I do think...
So it's maybe more of a El Camino situation?
Yeah, maybe, except there's one thing that El Camino didn't do, which this thing is... Right now, I'm not thrilled with what's happening. It's kind of deteriorating my view of the Harry character, and I don't like that. I don't like what it's doing to that character. And I'm curious to see where it ends, because I do think there's the natural human error that can be involved in emotion. If he can overcome it by the end of the story, then I'll be okay with it. But if it doesn't really get a solid resolution, I'm going to be a little bit. I'm not giving anything away here. I just don't want him to be a character that I'm not rooting for.
Oh, so it's not just that he's flawed; it's that you're actively...
He's kind of shitty.
You're going to say you're starting to actively dislike.
Absolutely, yeah. And I get, the thing is, if you look at like psychology and things like that, like I can understand what they're doing with the character. It makes sense. It's very human what they're doing. But the characters are
without knowing the specifics, you could look through the lens of what the specifics of the Luke character in the sequels, like how everyone. It's like you said, it's kind of not just the psychology of the character, but the psychology of the person watching or embracing the media, right? How you respond can tell you as much about yourself as about the character, and that's why I find it interesting if you're going through the same thing where it's, do I not like what they're doing to the character because I disagree with it, or because it's not being done well and it doesn't make sense? You know what I mean? Because like I've had that conversation with people about Luke, and you and I are on the same page. We've discussed it a bunch of times where we felt like it was a natural evolution of that character, and it was understandable. And even if we didn't 100% agree with all of it, we got it.
Yeah,
and it all made sense.
Absolutely.
And for some people, it didn't make sense, and I've tried to have that conversation with them, because if you can understand it, you don't have to like it. That's the thing I say to people all the time. You don't have to, and I say it to my brother a lot, it frustrates him, you don't have to like it,
right,
as long as you can understand it. If you can understand it and embrace what's being done to the character, it can allow you to continue on without like fully tarnishing it for yourself, because it makes logical sense, even if it's not what you would do with the character, and you take ownership of the character yourself.
Yeah, I think it gets put in a little bit of a weird, like a gray area, specifically because a play is not meant to be read.
Yeah.
And there is a lot that I would imagine would come through in directing the performance of the character, because so much is left out of the dialogue and stage like directions that are on the page that you would get from the character's performance. Yeah. Or that you would get from establishing like descriptions in text of like, you see how hurt he is on his face when he says X. Like you can't, you're not able to fully get that with just reading the screenplay.
Okay.
Or not the screenplay, the play. It's a play. So I think I'm giving it a little bit of leeway there, but at the same, when I finish it, I really would like to see it and see how it plays out, and I want to go into it with how I want to really try to remember how I feel about it while I'm reading it, going into it, just because it feels like there's just something off. It's almost as like the character could have gotten to where he is, but I don't necessarily see him getting to that point based on what we've experienced so far.
Okay.
So anyway, it's not crazy or anything like that. It's just interesting. But at any rate, I am enjoying the story though. I think the story is good. It's a lot of just like, it feels like a lot of what if we did this instead of this, and we'll use this kid to do that, you know. But
okay.
It's I don't know. It's kind of cool. I'm definitely like, I'm gutting through it rather quickly. I'm like, I burn through it really fast as I'm reading it, just because it is engaging. And while I am through and through a movie person, I have issues with certain things in books. I think there's a line between reading a book and reading a play, in that the play doesn't give you nearly enough when you're reading it, and the book...
It's not my favorite format.
The book gives me way too much.
So you need to find something between...
Exactly. I need the first 3 Harry Potter books is what I need.
So that's why I was saying I think you would... If it's a topic that interests you, or if it's a project that interests you, his Dark Materials would be more accessible, because, like I said, they're more in the 350 to 500 range.
Yeah.
At least the first 2 were. The third one might have been a little longer. I forget. It's been a long time. But, yeah, they're much more manageable. They're more like the early Harry Potter books than they are the later.
Then the later, I get it, you have hormones. Like, fucking relax. Like
the Game of Thrones ones. I don't know. I never found any of that to be
you know what it is?
Overly burdensome.
It's very possible that it was reading so many of them consecutively and not breaking. It's very possible that that's what it was. Because I understand that when you write another book, you do have to... regurgitate some of that, right? You have to get the people back into the place that the character was in when certain things happen, and it feels repetitive if you're reading them straight through.
Well, especially the first, 8 chapters, usually.
Yeah. Anyway, that's that. Let's talk about... Okay, actually, you know what? Another pet peeve. There's a teaser trailer for a trailer that's coming out tomorrow. What's that about?
The thing is, they've done that for all of them, or at least the last couple.
Oh, have they?
I wouldn't have just been able to tell you that, but when I saw that on Sunday or Monday, Sunday, because it was during the NFL games, I saw the teaser for was it No Time to Die?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it, it said full trailer on Wednesday. I was like, oh yeah, they did that for the last couple of them.
It's just funny because it's not a teaser. It's a trailer. It's not a teaser. That's what it's kind of annoying in that way. I feel like I didn't really get much, no tone or anything out of it. I just gotta get excited because the trailer is coming.
Well, it was a true tease.
But not of the movie, of the trailer. That's what my problem is.
I don't know. The thing is, like I said, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this for the last couple of them. Yeah. So it wasn't I just remember that being a thing after having seen it. So it was like, oh yeah. I wish it was trailer tomorrow, not trailer Wednesday. That was really my only issue.
Sure. I'm actually really excited for the trailer. I'm also really looking forward to the movie. More on that later.
Well, I say it's weird because we have to talk about it now because it happened.
Yeah.
But the trailer is going to come out after we're done recording, and we're probably not going to have a time to come back on.
Exactly.
So next week we'll talk about it.
Yeah. We'll bring it in next week.
When you're hearing this, you'll have seen the trailer.
That's right. Hopefully you're on top of your shit.
Next week when you're listening to us talk about it, you'll have forgotten the trailer.
What are they talking about?
Unless it's just that good.
Yeah, right. Or we forget to talk about it because it's completely forgettable.
Because it's been 6 days.
Yeah. All right. Here's a topic that we can both talk about. The Black Widow trailer's out. Got a couple of quick notes here.
Okay.
At first, when I was watching the trailer, I was like, I think the first probably 20 seconds or so of the trailer, I was like, is the entire trailer going to just be regurgitated footage and not actually be a trailer? That's a thing that's done. That's a teaser thing, right? Where you can...
Yeah, Star Wars did that for 9.
Yeah. And I was like, when you told me, and then I looked it up, and then I was like, oh, there's so much about this. I thought it was going to be more than that, and it turns out it is. Thank God. So it's more than that. At first, I was like, all right, yeah.
It was a full trailer.
Yeah, I was like, I know these things, and then they started to get into it. Against all odds, I'm in. I don't know what they did with that trailer, but they nailed it. The music, the execution.
You know what got you? It was David Harbour.
It was David Harbour. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it was a lot of things. It was basically the whole Bourne Identity movies meet the MCU that I was really interested in, and I was thinking oh, okay, it's there's Lucy and all these other movies that I feel are trying to do this, but this is an established character that I actually give a shit about, and I feel like it's gonna work this time.
It's Lucy / Hannah / Red Sparrow /
I care,
all wrapped up into one thing. Jason Bourne, but with someone I know.
Right. With a character that I'm already pseudo invested in, and also just tremendous music cues. The music in the trailer is awesome. I was really into it. I don't
recall it, but I'll take your word for it.
I was very much. I was like, it was good vibes. It felt like the MCU, but darker and grounded, almost like what I'm getting out of some of the Watchmen stuff, like a comic book. I
was gonna say it's the Rogue One of the MCU.
Yeah, perfect.
Which actually kind of makes sense since she's dead.
Yeah, I agree. So open questions: will we find out what happened in Budapest?
I imagine so.
I hope so. Do you think Clint's going to be in it?
Probably. It would make sense.
I hope so. I hope that he's in some capacity there, but I also hope that they don't tell us.
It would give us some reason for him to still be around. I still can't believe they fucking killed her and kept him around. It was the stupidest. For a 2-part movie that did so many things right, that's a pretty big misstep.
Yeah. I was almost rooting for that situation where they both fall. And it's just somebody else is going to have to come pick up the stone because they fucked up.
It's just Red Skull standing there. Guys?
This has never happened before. Now you goes to the rule book. I get it. Yeah. Oh man. Also, I love me some David Harbour. So and Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, that surprised me. I forgot she was in this.
Yeah. I don't know. There was
also
there
I
was some
definitely
cool
didn't
stuff.
know that he was in this.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I think I just forgot.
Yeah. No, it looks good. It's a really well done trailer. It gives you just enough to get you interested. Doesn't really tell you anything.
Yeah, I still don't know fucking anything other than it's her and her family, which I thought she had none.
Yeah, I think that's what's a little odd about it. I don't know. Is it actually her family, or is it like the people that she considers family?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see when we get there. But
I mean, it's definitely got to be a bit of both because like the one girl was like sister.
Yeah, at any rate, it seems like it's going to be executed with the care that it's going to take for me to be invested in it, which I'm really happy about, which I probably should have just assumed at this point. But it's like, oh, I was excited to see the character for the first time, and I was like, interesting. But it's the thing you said. It's like they never really gave that character anything to do until die so that we can progress the plot. Like, and it's just a waste. It seems very throwaway. They just didn't know how to handle it. And now it's like, okay, if we're going to center this whole story around this character, we'll at least be able to invest our time and emotion into the character.
It's just weird because, and I know we talked about it in that episode for Endgame several months ago, those two characters never were really given anything to do.
No.
But in that movie, you gave one of them a reason to continue to live, and the other one, you took away all reason for him to live and all right he had to happiness. So it didn't make a lot of sense to give it back to him who didn't deserve it and take it away from the one who finally did.
Mm-hmm. I think if they went more of a route of like she's going a little nuts with how everything has gone, and she's like more of a Steve Buscemi in Armageddon character, like that would have been a really fun way to do it.
Maybe, but the whole point is one of them was going nuts, and that's the one who walked away.
Yeah.
It would have been like if at the end Harry grabbed AJ and threw him out and said, "Yeah, you're gonna go do it." Like, I got nothing to live for, and you have everything to live for, but you're gonna do the bomb thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't plan on this all turning into a whole lot of Armageddon.
That's pretty much what happened. Why have we not done that movie yet? That's a missed opportunity.
We've had a pretty good run of releases lately.
It's got to be hitting some ridiculous anniversary that we could do for it soon.
Did it pass the anniversary?
I think we're going to need to do a top 10 movies of the decade as our last episode of this.
It definitely came past its anniversary because it came out pre-2000 and we're about to hit 2020.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It is at least 20 years old.
Yep. Oh man, I remember watching that movie in one of your houses. Not the one you're in now. A different place that you used to live. You lived in different places. That's all and I feel like I've been to all of them. I just don't know where they were.
I don't recall you coming to the condo in Vermont.
That's the one.
It wasn't in the condo.
It wasn't there?
No, because we moved out of that by like 95, and Armageddon was after that.
I think I've been to every place you lived.
What's I'm saying, I don't recall you being at the condo.
Pretty sure I've been there.
But, well, because I barely remember.
Describe to me the layout of the condo.
It was a condo.
Got it. I was there.
You walk in the front door, you turn left, there's a kitchen, you keep going. It's an L-shaped kitchen, you go through back to the living room, and then out back.
What's the one that had the river in the backyard?
Yeah, that was the condo.
I was there. Boom. Nailed it.
Okay.
I was also tremendously sick when we came. I think I got like an ear infection while I was there.
Nice.
Yeah, it sucked. Anyway.
I bet.
It's Al's history. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. When does that come out? Is that March?
I don't know. Sometime next year.
March something. Whatever. Whatever.
The thing is, they probably said it at the end of the trailer, and I don't fucking remember.
They might have. I'm excited for that. It actually looks good. I'm ready to get back in some MCU action. So, looking forward to it. All right, what else you got?
Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge.
Okay.
Streaming exclusively
Literally,
on Disney Plus.
this just crossed my screen, and I X'd it out. I didn't even... What is it?
Original game show to be hosted by Ahmed Best.
But what is it?
Jedi Temple Challenge, an exciting new Disney Plus game show set in a galaxy far, far away, will test young contestants' ability in the core Jedi principles of strength, knowledge, and bravery as they face thrilling and fun obstacles in an attempt to achieve the rank of Jedi Knight. From lightsabers to hyperspace, the Force and the dark side, Jedi Temple Challenge transports viewers and contestants into the Star Wars galaxy like never before. The show is hosted by Ahmed Best, who will play a Jedi Master and mentor to the contestants. Known to many fans as Jar Jar Binks from the Star Wars prequels, Best's unique set of skills is as an actor, dancer, martial arts expert, stomp musician, and Star Wars fan, make him the perfect choice as the show's host and mentor. Best is joined by a hilarious humanoid droid companion voiced by Mary Holland from Veep and Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. This is definitely a kids' game show like no other, says Lucasfilm's Senior Director of Online Content and Programming, Mickey Capoferri. The various challenges will test a Padawan's connection to the Force in 3 locations: a forest planet, on board a Jedi Star Cruiser, and inside a Jedi temple, immersing them and the audience in a fun, humorous, and exciting competition. Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge brings together the best of Star Wars: competitive spirit, harrowing obstacles, and a hero's triumph over challenges. A totally new format for the franchise, says Dan Silver, Vice President of Original Unscripted Content on Disney+. A game show set in the Star Wars galaxy is a perfect fit for Disney+.
I am 100% going to watch this, because what I'm hearing right now is Legends of the Hidden Temple Star Wars.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that you got me. I'm in.
It will stream exclusively on Disney+ in 2020.
Cool. I'm all in on Disney+.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten to watch a lot of stuff on it. The Mandalorian.
I was going to say, I got my money worth with The Mandalorian and Rebels, so, like, I'm fine.
Well, I've spent $0, so I've definitely gotten more than my money's
worth.
Well,
that's true.
The Mandalorian's fucking great. We're going to talk about it more later after the movie episode. Oh, in this episode. I like that I have access to all these things. I have been a little intimidated to go into all of it, but I also have, like, I feel like it's going to be something that I dive into around Christmas time. Once, like, The Mandalorian will be over, Watchmen will be over, his Dark Materials will be over. Like, I'm going to hit a little bit. Like, I'm in that time now where I have 2 big shows running. Plus, I had all my fall comedies running that just ended. And also, I have Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I'm going to be done with all those things. I need something to watch.
Sure.
I'm obviously going to watch 22 hours and 25 minutes straight of Star Wars movies on Disney Plus.
Right.
Sometime in the next 20 days.
Oh man, I want to do it.
I do really want to see that. Some of those movies in 4K.
Yes.
Especially, I want to see what the conversion of the originals on 4K looks like. Yeah.
So I watched 1 and 2, which it doesn't really matter to see those. 3, I think will look very good, and then watching the old ones redone, like remastered, will be interesting.
The thing is, for whatever reason, at the end of every Mandalorian episode, it tells me to watch Empire Strikes Back.
What is that? Yes, I get that too.
So I want to see that one.
It's like you like the dark, grittier stuff. That's why you're watching this, right? Here's episode 5.
I guess so. I mean, it could tell me to watch Rogue One too. So I mean, like,
it could, but it's making a better choice.
I mean, sure. It's a lot of probably the most people's favorite of the series. It's my favorite of the series.
I cannot pinpoint my favorite of the series.
I don't know. For a long time now, you've been saying it was Return of the Jedi. Have you backed off that?
The thing is, it's gotten to the point where there's so many of them, and I've seen so many of them so many times that I just don't know. And I haven't seen Return of the Jedi in a really long time. But we'll see, because I'm gonna try to get there. I'd be curious if my opinion changes in my adult years.
How long has it been since you've seen Return of the Jedi?
It's been a long time. The thing is, I feel like I know it like the back of my hand, though.
Yeah. So the thing with me is, because I still have TV, like, they play them on TV not that infrequently. So, like, I do get to see at least parts of all of these movies occasionally.
Sure.
So it never feels like it's that long since I've seen them.
Well,
with the exception of Phantom Menace. That one I really hadn't seen in any substantial way in several years.
That's so funny.
I watched it a few months ago.
Phantom Menace and Return of the Jedi are the 2 that I've seen the most. And here's why. Return of the Jedi, I would rent over and over and over again from the video store that we had our dealings with. Pizzeria. I give you pizza, I take Return of Jedi. And then I watch it. That happened over and over again. So much so that I'm still jarred by the fact that the Sarlacc pit has a mouth. Like that, like every time that comes up, I'm like, all right. Like they added that in. It used to be a floppy mess.
Without it. I watch it enough without it.
Yeah.
But I still have watched it more times with it.
Yeah.
And obviously much more recently, so to me, it's always like when I see it's like, that used to not be there. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Like, oh my god, it is there, you know?
And the reason why I watched Phantom Menace so much, as a kid, I loved that movie. And when I bought the VHS, I watched it over and over. I would like come home from school, I'd put it on, and I'd do my homework. And then I'd be finished with my homework, and I'd watch it one more time. And then I would put it on before I went to bed, and I would fall asleep to it.
You watched it 3 times a day?
Dude, it was, for a few weeks, it was intense. And, yeah, like...
Because everyone had that movie when they were a kid, or, you know, maybe a couple of different movies over the course of, like, multiple years.
Yeah.
Oh, it was this movie for a year or two, that movie for a year or two, whatever. That they watched every day or every night, whatever. 3 times a day. No, that's not...
Oh, dude, and don't get me started. That's just the whole movie. Then there's, like, the rewinding and watching the Duel of the Fates over and over again.
Did you hear that every main theme is going to be in this movie?
Stop.
That's a thing.
Stop.
I don't know if it's 100% confirmed. I think it is.
Including that one?
Because they used Duel of the Fates in the newest trailer.
Yeah.
The newest spot, whatever. I believe... I didn't get to follow it up. I meant to look it up, but now you just said it reminded me. I believe that Abrams or someone said every theme is used, at least temporarily.
Dude, every
main theme. Not like you're not going to get the porny guitars from Attack of the Clones, but like every main theme. So like the Duel of the Fates, the Padme, I don't remember what that one's called, but you know, the one from Attack of the Clones, you know. That one I think is going to be the one that would be used in it. I'm guessing Battle of the Heroes then probably for Revenge of the Sith, unless they use the tragedy of Plagueis the Wise.
Mm-hmm. That's probably actually what they're going to play.
You know, I think at least from the saga, maybe not whatever the main theme from Solo and Rogue One, I don't know if those were kind of, but I think all of the ones from the numbered saga are going to show up at some point.
That's amazing. Oh my god. I'm going to implode.
Part of it, I think, is a little bit of just to take the burden off of John Williams, because it's obvious that the years are catching up because he didn't do Rogue One at all. He added
but
one
also,
new theme.
can you? It's like, how many hits can this guy give you?
Sure,
he's tapped out.
He only added one new theme for 8, whereas he added 8 new things for 7.
Sure.
And then just wrote the one theme for Solo. I think it was the main Solo theme, and he's like, no, I gotta cut this. Because I think part of it was completionism. He said, I never gave Han his own theme, so I need to...
Sure. Oh my god. I'm getting the chills thinking about this movie. And it's too much. I can't handle it. And it's 2 weeks away. It's so close.
The score in 7 was incredible. Which is what disappointed me about 8, because they just added the one that they used with the Canto Bight stuff with Rose.
Sure.
So I just always associate with her, whether or not it's her theme. And it's fine. I actually liked it, but it's much more subtle and restrained than most of the other ones that they did. Mm-hmm. 7, the music was so good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, I might have to get through all these movies again beforehand. I almost want to start over. I mean, I'm only 2 in this.
Well, you're going to when you and I split that $1,000.
That's right. That's right. Man, I'm so excited. Now all I can think about is Rise of Skywalker. Okay. What else you got? News and nuggets.
We only have 16 more days.
I thought you were going to say we have 16 more news and nuggets to get through, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Al, you're going to have to put some of those on next week's.
No, I'm actually tapped out on news and nuggets.
The last thing that I had was what we're watching, and I know you had said you were watching Dark Materials.
Well, my 2 what we're watching is you're not actually watching.
Sure.
So.
I watched a couple episodes of the Righteous Gemstones. It is.
Oh yeah, I watched it a month or so ago.
It's absurd. It's so absurd.
Did you ever watch Vice Principals?
No, but I want to.
Okay. I liked that better.
Oh, okay.
But the Righteous Gemstones was still really good. Or the first season. I know they're working on a second season now, but I watched the whole first season in like 2 or 3 days, like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely good. I feel so grimy watching Danny McBride's shows.
Yeah.
Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones, either way. Like, I just feel grimy watching them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. They're all so weird.
So my favorite part, my favorite thing that's happened so far is it came up because the only reason I started watching it was I was listening to an Armchair Expert episode with Adam Devine. I also listened to the one with Danny McBride. They talked about the show. They talked about it a lot and how much they love it. So I was like, oh, I'm going to give it a shot. And the one with Adam Devine got me. I was hysterical because they were talking about a scene where he screws up a line delivery, but they kept it in just because it was so ridiculous and kind of perfect for him. And
which line was it?
Well, I listened. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to watch the show. Then I started watching it, and I started hysterically laughing, and then realized after, like, oh, that's what they were talking about. They're in the bathroom, and Danny McBride says something like, he's like, they're gonna attack this other priest, this other pastor.
Yeah. The Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah, and Adam Devine goes, "Have you lost your malleables?" he was gonna say, he says in that interview that he was gonna say mind, but in that moment realized that he just said, "Have you lost your mind?" in a previous take or for a previous line, that he like wanted to change it, and he screwed up in saying it, and they were just like, "Well, this is perfect."
I don't remember that, but that's funny.
It's so good. It's like you can't even fake the way that he said it. That's how ridiculous, like, because it's so naturally jumbled. it's
So you recognize then that the sister was Fran in the Knives Out.
Yeah.
Because I was watching with Gianna, and she didn't watch. Her and Dominic didn't watch The Righteous Gemstones, but the three of us watched Vice Principals together. Mm. And I was like, "Do you recognize her?" And she's like, "No." I said, "She was the crazy teacher in Vice Principals." Oh my god! I was like, "Yeah, she's in." I was like, "She's in Righteous Gemstones as well. She must be in like all the stuff that Danny McBride does."
That's funny.
Well, because Walton Goggins was in this, and he was also. It's like the two of them are like the dual leads of Vice Principals.
Yeah. Okay, so let us. We're done with news and nuggets, right?
Yes.
So let's get into our quiz. It's fun and games.
Do we have fun and games?
We have fun and games.
I remembered it. This is of the like 10 weeks we've been doing this. This is the first time I actually remembered it.
Which Knives Out character are you?
I literally forget it every time.
This one is on the nose. So which Knives Out character are you? Pick a Rian Johnson movie. Brick, The Brothers Bloom, Looper, or Star Wars The Last Jedi. I think this one's for us. Yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah. Pick
a way to spend your fortune. House, business, cars, or donate.
Sorry, say that again.
Pick a way to spend your fortune.
Oh. House, cars.
Business, donate.
I guess donate?
There's no family option. Pick a mystery movie. Chinatown, Sherlock Holmes, Gone Girl, A Simple Favor. A Simple Favor is a really good movie. We should get to that one.
I know. Day. I still haven't gotten to see that yet. I'm going to go with Gone Girl.
Nice. You're going with Baby Teeth? Pick what best describes you. Inquisitive, angry, spoiled, caring.
Caring.
Pick a cast member's movie. Halloween, Casino Royale, Hereditary, Avengers Endgame.
Oh, Casino Royale.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Pick a weapon. Knife, poison, candlestick, rope.
Candlestick.
It's just so bizarre, right?
Yes.
Pick a song. It's like candlesticks are only used for... Like, I don't even register that candlesticks are used for candles. They're used for murder. That's what they're for.
Yeah, I mean, from playing the game Clue, right. It's...
Pick a song from the soundtrack. Sweet Virginia by the Rolling Stones. More Than This by Roxy Music. Losing My Mind by Stephen Sondheim? Animal Zoo by Spirit.
Pass.
Right.
The Stones one, just because that's the only song I know.
Pick a Clue character. Mrs. White, Mr. Green, Mrs. Peacock, Professor Plum.
Mrs. White.
There's flames on the side of my face, heaving. Pick a 2019...
I would have probably picked Miss Scarlet because she cracked me up in that movie, but Madeline Kahn, just that one scene cracks me up.
It's amazing.
I know you love it.
Oh, so absolutely. Also, that one scene where she just goes, ah! Pick a 2019 movie. Us, Captain Marvel, Booksmart, or Hustlers.
But you said just pick a movie?
Yep.
It was Us? What?
Captain Marvel, Booksmart, or Hustlers.
Captain Marvel?
Yeah. Finally, pick a sweater.
Pick a sweater?
Yeah, it's so there's a picture of Chris Evans wearing his sweater in the movie, Michael Shannon wearing his sweater in the movie, Marta wearing her sweater, and the Nazi child masturbating wearing his.
I don't know. I wouldn't wear any of those sweaters. I guess the Chris Evans one.
It's the nicest looking one.
Yeah.
All right, you got Marta. You are thoughtful, generous, and you hate lying. People have walked all over you in the past, but you will get the last laugh in the end.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
All right, sounds good. Marta. I like it. All right, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. Knives Out, released in 2019, PG-13, 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's a comedy crime drama. This is your IMDb synopsis. A detective investigates the death of a patriarch of an eccentric, combative family. That is just so not what this movie... I mean, that's there.
Woefully inadequate to describe
All right.
this movie.
This movie is tremendous. Okay?
It was really
and
good.
for my tweet-length review, what I have is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut that fits inside the hole of a donut with its own donut hole.
Of all the ridiculousness that was said in this movie, that was probably
the best
most
part.
ridiculous.
The best part. Okay, this movie did a lot for me. One, didn't hate Michael Shannon. I know that I have I hate like a dislike for his acting for no real reason. If you think about it,
I was saying at this point, you have to finally come back to the fold, right?
I've agreed. I think maybe 2 times since that I've seen a movie with him. I agree that the distaste that I have is not warranted. I agree with that in this movie he was actually very good. I thought he was, and he kind of won me over a little bit. I think he was tremendous in this. That being said, Daniel Craig at his finest, and he's just having a blast, and you can see it. He's having so much fun making this movie that it makes the movie.
Yes,
and I don't know. I'm just beside myself. I was like watching the movie. I was like, this movie is so much fun. This is Clue in 2019. It's so good.
It's funny because, and I'll get to this a little later, I've been describing it when I'm talking with people as like, oh, part Clue, part Murder at the Orient Express. Yeah. Like all. I actually think it's closer to Murder on the Orient Express than it was Clue. Although obviously,
except for the location, that's pretty much it.
Yes. Well, the location was more, but the actual sensibilities of the movie and its characters
absolutely
were more reminiscent of Murder on the Orient Express than.
Yeah.
But yes, by token of having an eccentric person die at the beginning, and it's in this ridiculous, elaborate thing with mansion with secret tunnels and all that shit. Yes, obviously, much more Clue-like in that respect. My tweet-length review was a delightfully contrived and convoluted web of ridiculousness that has surprising heart.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I also had an alternate here that says a murder mystery where the murder isn't so much the mystery.
Yeah, that was my first note that I put down here. It doesn't have to be the first note we discuss, because that should be more post-spoiler. It's so incredibly bold to not just give away the killer, but the entirety of the situation.
Yeah.
In the first act of the movie.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't delivered with false, like narrative, like unreliable narrator type of thing. No. They explicitly tell you.
Here.
They explicitly tell you who killed him and how and why and the entirety of how it happened in the end of the first act, and then had 2/3 of the movie left. And I was like, how are they going to sustain this?
Right.
And I guess we can say this because it's still pre-spoilers. It requires an entire deconstruction of the whodunit murder mystery genre.
Absolutely.
In fact, it's now entirely something different. This movie is not a whodunit murder mystery. We know who's done it.
That's the thing that I've been hanging on to lately, because everybody's like, the perfect whodunit movie. I'm like, no. It's don't get me wrong, it's perfect.
Well, it kind of was, because at the end, the big reveal of there was always something more going on, and they all of the whole movie.
I don't know.
All
There's
the
an
twists and
implication
turns
in the
are
whodunit of like who done the murder. I feel like.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, it's a perfect mystery movie.
And I guess this, continues on, and I've heard some people say it sarcastically, and it's like, well, no, it's an earnest, real thing. Of you'll hear it used as an epithet instead of as a credit to the person. Rian Johnson subverting the genre and subverting expectations. He's no longer interested, and you don't have to like it. Like I said, you just have to understand it.
Yep.
We've seen all of these stories so many times. The murder mystery, the hero's journey, the whatever you want to say. There's every type of story you can think of. You've seen it a million times, and you can rearrange the parts and the pieces in the order in which the story is told. But in the end, like they said, in literature, there's like 6 types of stories you can tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man versus man, and man versus himself, and man versus environment, and stuff like that. Whatever there was 6 types of stories that you can have. There's only 6 types of stories you can have. Like, they're all the same thing. So taking it apart and putting it back together again in something that's inside out, oh my god, the creature's inside out. You and I were just discussing before. And
then it exploded.
Which kind of actually fits this movie, really.
Pretty perfectly.
But
this movie's an onion, also. Which that's
it's got layers. No, there's something to be said for, like, give me some, like what more could you ask for when you go to the movies? I guess that's why the movies are dying, right? Is because you've seen all of these stories so many times, and it's not a failing of the directors and writers or whatever. There is a finite amount of different ways you can do these things. So if you want a reason to get up and turn off Netflix and go see a movie, it's because it's something you haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. It's not supposed to be... I don't have a problem with a good, like, little popcorn flick that doesn't make you think too much. I really don't. I like a lot of movies like that. We were talking about Armageddon before.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jesus, we love that movie. It's fine.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you do need to get outside of your comfort zone. That is literally the idea of getting off your couch, in front of your 4K TV. I have both those. I spend a lot of time on them.
Yeah.
To get up and go out and do something different.
Yeah, you gotta get out there because you don't want to miss a thing. I'm sorry. you set it up.
I'm as guilty as anyone, and more so than most people, of getting in my own comfort zone with, like, so many things in my life that the one thing I know I can control is to get outside of my comfort. Just listen to our fucking show. Dude, we do the Phantom Thread, and then we'll do Star Wars the next week. Yeah. Like, you can't get more different than that. We'll do Roma, and then we'll do fucking Frozen. Right. It was something I was talking about with my sister, because she's abandoned the Star Wars marathon. She just can't do it anymore. I'm very disappointed in her. And I was like, listen, when I set out to have you start doing this, it wasn't to turn you into a super Star Wars fan. It was never going to happen. I always knew that. The point was to get you out of your comfort zone, to just experience different things. It's 2 hours of your life. You're not going to really miss it. You know what I mean?
It's 22.5 hours of her life, but it's fine.
Well, if you do it all at once. The point was to do it over 6 months. You're not going to miss that time. You know what I mean? 1 day in 6 months. You know how many fucking days of 6 months I or you or...
There'll be a time in the future where she redeems herself and she'll watch them with you.
I sure hope so. And the thing is, like, she was even like, you know what? It was so much getting in my own head to just sit down and watch the movie. Because once the thing started rolling, I liked some of them, I didn't like some of them. But, like, it was fine while I'm watching it. And it's like, yeah, and that's the point, is just to sit down and turn it on.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to get to that crunch of watching 6 movies in 6 days. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, it's intimidating for someone who likes it, let alone someone who doesn't. So, in short, the 2 things that we would like you to take away from Flix and a Six is get out of your comfort zone, and you don't have to like things. You don't have to like them, but you have to understand them. And that's what we're trying to do, man, is just give our best understanding of these things. Neither of us, we may be cinephiles, but we're not fucking PhDs in filmography. Like, Sure. I don't know. Like, there's different levels that everyone can embrace any of these things at, and you can find your comfort zone at that. Like, don't talk out your ass about
Sure.
something that you don't understand.
We
do that sometimes, but we endeavor to be better. I think we're a lot better now than we were with episode 1.
We're widely the target audience for a lot of things, which is because we like movies so much, but we're not always going to be the target audience, but we'll try anyway.
Yeah, and that's my biggest takeaway with it.
I hear you.
Just go out and do something different. This movie is distinctly different than most things you'll see.
Getting back into this movie, I want to rattle off a couple of things and then go into spoiler territory, because there's so much that we need to talk about with this movie that we can't just like skirt around things. So
yes, the nature of this movie requires full...
Exactly. So here's a couple things I need to rattle off. First off, this movie is stylish as hell. I love the way the movie is shot. It's just...
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about it, like, I saw something, it was just a little blurb about, like reviewing this movie, and it was like, with Knives Out, we finally get a clearer picture of the kind of house style of Rian Johnson, and I was like, fuck if there aren't 3 more different movies that exist in the world than Brick, The Last Jedi, and Knives Out. And those are the only 3 of his movies I've seen, because he hasn't really made that many yet. And I've seen, like, his couple of episodes of Breaking Bad. Like, I'm really at a loss to tell you the things that are in common between all of those things.
There's a handful... There's, like, very important visual cues. Like the background in a lot of situations is important. There's always I feel like there's usually some little story that's going on, like some closed loop that's in there that you can follow along. In this movie, it's the baseball. We'll get to that later. I really want to hear your thoughts on that, actually. Okay.
The baseball specifically.
It's great. I really love that. So anyway, there's that, and then there's also the dialogue. It's just so on point. Like I love every delivery, every little thing. One of the lines that was in the trailer, like oh yeah, I read a tweet about an article about you. Like it's just such a silly little thing. It's so perfect though.
Well, that's the one thing I can pick out as a common factor between all of his movies is the importance of language.
Sure.
And not that the language of each of them are the same, but that internal to each of them, language is super important to Rian Johnson. And I actually thought there was a line that Jamie Lee Curtis delivered in this movie that was actually meta both for the movie and for his movies. And it was, she said, we had our own secret language between each of us. We had all these little games. And that is a good descriptor of so much of what's going on with this movie and all of his movies in general. Brick is an exercise in language. Frustrating as it was for me to watch. And I find it funny. One of the big complaints I saw from certain people about episode 8, one of the few complaints that I was willing to engage with because it was there was a real conversation to be had about it. There isn't a right or wrong to it, I guess I'll say. I don't feel like I'm right and those people are wrong. In this one, as with so many of the complaints I've seen about that movie, that the script and from the perspective of dialogue, that scripted dialogue in The Last Jedi fell short of so many of the other ones. I was like, first of all, like, have you seen the lines about sand? Like, come on. But if you want to say it fell short of the language of the original trilogy, fine. If you want to say it fell short of the dialogue in Episode 7 or Rogue One, fine. I don't... And for as much as I think that Rian Johnson was such a great fit for so many of the things visually and thematically that he did in Episode 8, I do think he wasn't a great fit for the dialogue in Episode 8. That maybe his interest in language wasn't a good fit. Not that his interest wasn't, but that his specific attempt to bring language of his own writing to Episode 8 maybe wasn't a great fit for Star Wars, or that it's jarring to the viewer in a way that it doesn't feel... Like, so much of it was coherent between other ones, because, like, Lawrence Kasdan, like, co-wrote or wrote outright so many of the movies. I'm sure he consulted on the prequels, even if he doesn't have a writing credit. He wrote 5 and 6. He wrote Rogue One, I think, and he definitely wrote Solo. So, like, Lawrence Kasdan's voice is in so many of the Star Wars movies. that to have Rian Johnson solely write that one movie is going to be jarring to the viewer. And there were certain things I noticed when I was watching it, not in a negative way, just that I noticed it in a different way.
Absolutely.
There was so many things in 8 that were different than I was used to in Star Wars. So with the opening scene where the one Imperial officer says to the admiral or whatever his name was, it was Captain Kennedy or whoever it was, who was piloting the dreadnought. He says, "I believe he's tooling with you, sir." That's not a Star Wars phrase.
Absolutely not.
It was a great line. I laughed at it, but it is jarring for someone who's used to the language of Star Wars being different than the language of our everyday life. So I find that's the one thing I noticed is that language is so important. I didn't find it to be inferior in 8, but it was so very different. And in this case, it's a better fit his interest in language because there were so many little things that I want to get into more once we get post-spoilers because it gets into specifics of certain characters. That was one of the things that I did pick on. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. I enjoy this part of the movie. And it's one of the few things I could tie to his other work that I can think of.
So I love everything you just said. I will say you screwed up 3 times though, in that we're in the Star Wars universe and what you're speaking about. You said jarring and you didn't say jarring. I expected it at least once, but I got nothing.
Was it in my thoughts?
So a few last minute things before we get into post spoilers. The cast chemistry is amazing. Everybody plays off each other so well. Chris Evans is a tremendous douchebag in this movie. Like he pulls it off with just I can't even explain. He does it so well.
It's a throwback to his roles of like the late 90s and early 2000s.
Right. Marta, such a great character, so innocent and pure, even though like is the center of a lot of what's going on.
So innocent and pure for the most
part.
She
learns.
Mean
she learns
when she needs to.
And then the last thing, drunk and/or goofy Christopher Plummer is the most endearing thing about this movie.
That was pretty entertaining.
There's a point where he's just really goofy and similar to Daniel Craig's performance, just having a damn good time making it. And I don't care, like, you gotta give credit, I feel like, to the director at that point, because like I feel like they create an environment where you can have that fun.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea.
Credit to the characters and the actors that are playing those characters, but credit to the director for allowing that to happen and then ultimately making it into the movie.
That's what makes the collaboration between like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly with Adam McKay specifically so special, right? Is he creates the environment for them to riff and have their fun, which creates this magic where when those two guys work with a lesser director, like in, for instance, that Sherlock Holmes movie that they were in, it doesn't.
It was still funny. It just wasn't. No, it wasn't an Adam McKay movie. Okay, from this point on, we're going to be talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, pause, go see it, and come back. Because if you listen to this show, this movie's for you. That's all. That's all there is to it.
I want to have a quick note because for now, this is the last time I plan on talking about Star Wars for this episode.
Sure. Good save.
Because it is natural for us to talk about Rian Johnson. Like,
sure.
It's going to come back to that for certain reasons, right? There was the one specific line after that car chase when I don't even remember it was a lieutenant whatever, I can't remember his name, Lakeith Stanfield, his character, says, "This was the dumbest car chase ever." And I was like, I started cracking up, and John was like, "What?" And I was like, "So you didn't see The Last Jedi?" And this is like absolutely meta, poking fun at himself, which the movie isn't perfect. For as much as we love it, that movie wasn't perfect. And I remember watching the movie and being done with it. I was like, that was one of the dumbest chase scenes ever. Like, that's a valid criticism, all of that. And it's not necessarily a problem because it does fit within all the story or whatever, right? But in the end, it was really a dumb chase, right? And that, while it was happening, it was like, this is the worst, stupidest car chase ever. And like, think about like the truck like trying to come around and chase her, and like one pallet fell in front of her, like the truck, and like he couldn't get over it. It was like, this is really dumb. And then he says it, and I was like, oh, he's just having a laugh at himself. And like, good for him, and everyone should be able to appreciate him being able to laugh at himself with all that. Hell, there's a whole sub-story about, the alt-right, Twitter Nazi son, who was like 99% of the people who were blasting him online for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? Like
the fact that there wasn't some line about Last Jedi, it would have they would have been able to pepper it in, and that was it basically.
Way it's so funny because it absolutely worked for a laugh on its own on the surface in the movie, and then to say that right after the chase is the stupidest car chase. I was like, oh, good for you, man. That was well done.
So we're in post spoiler territory right now. Anything going forward, it's on you.
This whole movie is a spoiler. You have to unravel all
spoilerific.
all the spider webs.
So where do you want to get started? Because I feel like there's so much to talk about. I don't really know where to begin.
The thing is, this movie I don't think will fit well with doing this happened
progressing
next,
through
and this
it. So
happened
do you want to? Should we circle back to the thing that I mentioned before about the baseball?
Yes.
All right. Cool. So here's what I love about this. Did you follow the trajectory of the baseball throughout the movie?
No,
okay.
Not exactly.
The only reason that I thought to follow it was because the first time you see it, it's dead center frame, I feel like, when he picks it up right before he throws it out the window. So Richard is cheating on his wife. This is another thing that I loved about the movie. When he's talking to the detectives, I love that they gave you this is how he's going to tell the detectives what happened, and they were going to show you instead of doing the movie thing where they replay that thing that he just said, they went back and they showed you how it happened, which I thought was really clever. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. So Richard is being not blackmailed; he's being coerced into telling the truth to his wife that he's been cheating on her. And Christopher Plummer's character, Harlan, he has a letter with the letter L inscripted on the front of it. It's to Linda, right? That's her name, Linda.
Yes.
He's going to give it to Linda. He's like, I'm going to explain. It's like, if you don't tell her, I will. And it's about this. It's about this affair. Richard goes into that room post the death. I think it's post the death, right? And it was when they all reconvened a week later at the beginning of the real story proper. Yeah. So he rips open the letter and sees that the letter is empty and there's nothing in it. It's just a piece of paper, and he throws it on the table. And he picks up the baseball and he tosses it a few times and he throws it out the window. And I was like, that was weird. I'm going to hold on to this, right? Like, why did he throw that out the window? Also, they showed it go out the window. The problem is, there was so many things to hold on Absolutely.
to that I made the same note, and because it kept getting thrown, and I kept waiting for it to pay off. Yeah. And I felt like it was the only thing in the movie that
it pays off in a very subtle way, and it's great. So here's what happens. He throws the ball out the window, which is great. It's just like it's a very silly thing because it looks so dramatic, and there's no noise or anything that goes along with it.
Yeah, I was expecting to hear a glass.
Right.
It just lands on the lawn, and what's his name?
Blanc
scoops it up, picks it up. Benoit Blanc picks it up without breaking stride and just looks at it and pockets
Yes,
it, right?
exactly. So now Benoit Blanc has the baseball. In a future scene, the dog comes up to him with a piece of the lattice for the climbing up the, what is that thing called? Is it a lattice? Trellis. And he drops it.
Well, the best part about that whole thing was, and that got into the series of movie where I was like, are they going to just unravel this in a completely comedic way? Because it got super slapstick there. Yeah. Where it's she breaks the VCR. And then she's wiping the VHS.
What about the footprints? The footprints was my favorite part.
Well, that's the next one. I was doing those in order. She starts stepping in. Sorry, I can't hear you. Just stay where you are. Sorry, what? As she keeps walking through the footprints, and I'm like, oh my god. And they're gonna do this whole thing, and then it's oh, we have to just walk past it. Oh, I guess whatever. And then the dog brings her the piece of the the trellis, and she picks it up and she throws it. And I was like, oh no. And so then 10 minutes later, they're out back, and the dog comes running back, and I was like, oh, God, it's going to have the trellis again. And it does, and it hands it to him, and then he throws the baseball again.
Okay, so following with the baseball. So the dog's nipping at the baseball because he has it in his hand. He's kind of playing with it at that point. He then throws the baseball and spots the trellis, and in that moment, he forgets completely about the baseball, and so do we. So he picks it up, and then the story progresses. the dog then brings the baseball into the house, and he's kind of chewing on it, and he's sitting with Linda, and Linda takes the baseball. Eventually,
that was during the reading of the will?
Eventually, Linda knows where the baseball's from and brings it back to the office to find the letter. So, like,
that's the payoff. Okay.
Basically, Richard gives himself up through this absurd loop that plays through the whole movie. That if you're not paying attention, and honestly, it's completely throwaway. But if you're watching for it, it's so good. It's so entertaining. It's such a silly little thing. It's just like he's his own downfall. He didn't decide to tell her. I'm going to tell her. But he did tell her in his own little way.
Well, that was kind of like a microcosm of the whole movie, right? Everyone ends up being their own downfall to some extent or another.
I just think it's such a little thing to put in there, and to really, like, I just like something like that where this thing with the dog and this baseball, like, and like the baseball moving throughout, like, it just seems so arbitrary in watching it until it concludes. And I think that, like, if you miss it, it doesn't matter. But if you watch it, it's just a nice little thing. It's just a fun, like, it's just another layer it's another layer of the onion.
It's funny because I was focused on the letter itself, and when she picks up the blank letter, I was like, oh my god, she's totally going to be able to figure it out. They have their little games, their secret language. But I just assumed she was going to know what, like, it being blank men or whatever, and then she goes to light up the cigarette, and I was like, it's going to be invisible ink, isn't it?
Yes.
And then she lights it, and there's invisible ink. I was like, yeah.
Well, that was another thing earlier on when she's talking about the game. She shows some other scenes of her, like, looking at, like, papers and stuff, and they have like scorch marks.
See, I didn't notice the scorch marks, but I knew that every one of them had writing on it, and this one didn't, and I knew that she was going to understand the significance of that.
Right. It's just so well. That whole baseball loop is just so great to me. I think that's so funny. Like,
there was a billion little cues to pick up on of this thing is going to happen next, or this is going to point to something that's going to be deeper than what it is, or this is going to point to something that's not what you see. And I feel like I guessed like 70% of them, but I didn't guess 30% of them, and those reveals ended up, or it took me a longer, like, I assumed it was going to be one thing, and then I figured it out later. It's like, oh shit, I was wrong, but this is going to be that instead. Like, so it made it fun. It felt like I was like playing with.
Yeah, I liked also, like, there were certain ones that when things were said with like they were delivered in a way that they felt important whether or not they revealed themselves, right? And one of the ones that felt important to me was really early on in the movie when Christopher Plummer's character says, I don't remember the exact quote, so forgive me, but he says something along the lines of, like, stupid grandson couldn't tell the difference between a stage prop and a real knife. And I was like, oh, that's funny. What does that mean? And then later on, when he's coming at her with the knife, I'm like, I know what's happening. And I was so excited to see it.
In the moment, I was like, man, they're really going to wait this long to show, because they made such a big deal about these fucking knives, right? And Gianna she beat me to it. She goes, he said it when he goes, everyone's got their knives out towards her. Yeah.
That's, oh my god.
But when he grabs the knife, I was like, okay, is he going to stab her? Is he going to stab Benoit? Is he going to stab the other guy? And it's going through, and like they land, and I was like, oh, that hilt is very clearly up against her chest. The prop knives.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my god, so good. The other one that I was kind of holding on to, they focused on that mug that said "My house, my rules, my something." I don't remember what else.
It was "My house, my rules,
my coffee." And I was like, but the way they focused on that mug, I thought that was going to come into play again. And the way that it subtly comes into play at the very end of the movie is tremendous. When they're showing the family, I'm like, and she's standing out there. I was like, oh, this is great, because I didn't know if they were going to show the rest of the mug, but the significance of her holding the mug, even though she was covering the words on it, was there. But then when they cut back to her and she has just the "My House" piece showing, I was just like, masterpiece.
The attention to detail in this movie is really incredible. With so many of these little threads, all of the little threads paid off to some degree or other. The only one I couldn't account for was the baseball one. Exactly, and you filled in that last gap for me, because there were so many other things. It was like, that's going to be important to some degree or other, and it was. Or that's going to inform this, or that closes that loop, or whatever. Like, something as stupid as them playing Go and him saying, "Oh, I dropped the Go board." Then it shows him playing Go, and she beats him. Then he throws the Go board, but that's not what makes the sound. But then another sound happens, and he uses it as an alibi when the daughter-in-law comes up. And then they go up into the room later, and Benoit throws the board on the ground, and it doesn't make enough of a sound. And then she talks about it with Ransom, and he makes note of the fact that Harlan claims that Marta is better at Go than Ransom is. And then, at the end, that's a cue to him that he knows that he has to get rid of her because she's the one who's going to be the all-important. By turning it back on her is the only way. And that in the end of all of that, she outsmarts him, that it became a metatextual thing, that Go became the game that they were playing in real life over life and death and who gets the will.
So there's a lot of character depth. Everybody's got something going on, and then something on a deeper level. And
I was say there were some characters who get a lot of depth, but everyone gets their one.
Yeah, one of the things I loved about Benoit Blanc was I love the reveal that she knew what happened the whole time. With the blood on the shoe, how long did you know? It's from the moment that I saw you, and he points at her shoe, and which is when they reveal the blood on her shoe. As an audience member, you start to go, "Oh no!" This is gonna, it's all gonna come crashing down.
Well, because they show it to you when she first goes home.
Yeah,
and my thought was, he says 8:00 tomorrow. I was like, and they show you the blood right before she goes to bed that night, and I'm like, can you please wear other shoes? Right, because that's gonna come back to bite you.
But then he consistently says something about her, her honesty. He says something, I can't remember the line, but he said, "Your good heart," and it's just he knows that she was there, but he's never nervous around her. He's never concerned. He knows that. He just knows her. She's innocent. Yeah, to some in some capacity.
And you can even look at it cynically, going back until they read the will. She doesn't have
she has no motive.
Any motive.
Yeah.
Everyone else has some motive. And I gotta find it, because we've gotten everyone else's name. I keep forgetting the character's name. Lieutenant Elliot. Elliot, that's right. Elliot keeps saying weak sauce. Weak sauce. That's a weak alibi. That's not, and Benoit knows it's not true, but he knows that everyone has some motive. So while he hasn't ruled out anyone, he feels like he can rule out her because she has no motive. Mm-hmm. It's a funny thing. Me and Dominic were just watching. Did you ever see the movie The Negotiator?
Oh yeah,
I saw it once, several years ago, and I remembered the big picture, or whatever. But I hadn't seen it in a while. It was just on. I just put it on because there was nothing for us to watch, and he got engaged in it, so we watched the whole thing. And there's that whole thing where he pulls in Sabian, the Kevin Spacey's character, because everyone has the potential to be involved except him.
Right.
And it's the same thing with her. Everyone has a motive. You could say his motive is more worthy than her motive, and her motive's not enough to cause murder and all this and that. And the one person who's most likely to have been there for multiple reasons, including the physical evidence of the blood on her shoe, is the only person who makes zero sense to her to have killed. Right. Which is an interesting duality to have to balance between for that character.
Yeah. Oh man, this movie. So speaking of little things that they would pepper in, if you're paying attention, that's what what I love about the movie. Those little things, they're add-ons. They make it so much more entertaining if you pick up on them. But if you miss a few, because I'm sure I've missed a bunch watching it, it doesn't degrade the experience at all. So one of the ones that really got me was when Chris Evans' character was what's his name? Ransom, which is just so ridiculous. When Ransom was in the diner pub with Marta, and he's like, "Can we get an extra bowl?" I was like, "This is hysterical." I know you know where it's going.
I didn't at first. I was I knew it was gonna.
Yeah.
It wasn't clicking for me. But the funny thing was, he goes, I know that you've eaten a bunch of sausage and beans, and I know you're going to tell me everything. And I'm looking at his white cable knit sweater. I was like, you do realize you're going to ruin your own sweater, right? And then he slides the bowl in front of her. I was like, yeah.
So
the funny thing being, ultimately, the movie hinges on her throwing up on him, and he's just not wearing the sweater anymore.
When that phone call happens at the end, I was like, oh my god, she's gonna lie right now, and she's gonna like puke on his face, and then within minutes she lies and pukes in his mouth.
See, I didn't at first figure that out, but then he like says, he goes, murder for murdering Fran. Oh wait, no, is it attempted murder? I'll be right out of it. I was like, oh, she's actually gonna be dead, and she's gonna throw up, isn't she? Like, I got it like a little later in the scene, but like everyone had to see it. That was coming, and like,
you know what's another great thing, just to show how douchey the cast, like the cast of characters is, that they don't know where Marta's actually from.
See, I thought at first, because there's a thing, if you noticed, when each of them is telling their story about the night before, when the grandfather's still alive, when Harlan's still alive.
Yeah.
Every time, they showed 3 or 4 times, or there was a couple of times, I forget how many, them bringing the cake out. And each person is telling the story. That person in their family is the ones at and behind his shoulders. So it's showing you that all of them are telling versions of the truth, right?
Another clever setup, that whole...
Yes. Which is actually, I think, a funny thing where it's supposed to be a trapping of the conventions of a classic whodunit, which ultimately they cast off because we don't need it. It's just their vanity, right? Because you think each of the... like, and that was where I got very heavy, especially at the moment, Orient Express vibes, because I thought it was going to be a... They all had something to do with this type of situation. So I was figuring that's what, like, oh yeah, then they had cake and we were all standing around him, but each person put themselves standing behind them because, you know, but no, it was just the vanity of, oh, I was the closest one to Harlan. No, I was the closest thing. But in those same sequences was when each of them named a different country for her. So I wondered, because so early on, it's before we find out that she's the one who accidentally, well, actually in the end she didn't kill him, right? Before we find that whole, like, crux of the movie that it's all hanging on, I wondered if that was all going to be an indication that she was lying to all of them. Like, she told him Europe. Oh, interesting. She told her Ecuador. She told them Brazil. You know what I mean? The other thing I thought was going to come back up was, if you remember at the very beginning when she shows up to the house, Linda says, I thought you should be at the funeral. I thought that was interesting. That's one of those things that I didn't end up getting a payoff for, but I feel like I might have missed something. No, I don't think so. I think that was one of the few things that... Well, I think it was just to show you that none of them actually cared about it. I thought they were going to do it a couple more times, though, because then Walter says the same thing. Meg cares. And I leaned over to Gianna and I said, oh, every one of them is going to end up saying that to her at some point. And it's going to be, well, if all of you wanted to be there and I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was more of a show, don't tell, where it was like leaning towards, hey, listen, they keep telling you how close she is, but none of them really care about her, or at least not more than any of them cares about themselves, or even as much as there was cliques within the family, right? No one ever prioritizes the whole family over the outside forces, right? But, you know, this one protects their son, and this one protects their daughter, and this one protects their husband, and this one protects their wife, right? Like, there was never a groundswell of all of them protecting each other, with the exception of an all-for-one or none at all situation where either we all get the money or she gets all of the money. Right, where it becomes them versus her. It's the only time. And it was only because their own selfishness had to prevail. If you don't get the money, then I also don't get the money. There's no scenario in which I get it and my husband gets it, but you don't get it. You know what I mean? It was either they all get it or Marta gets it. There was no middle ground there.
What about the Slayer law? Did you just Google that?
Well, the first thing was, she said, one of them says the one thing is, did you Google that? And he goes, what about the Slayer law? Yes, I did Google that. that was tremendous, because that's just such a real thing, right? Where there's a person who is like, who knows how this works, and then the person that has access to the internet that thinks they have the thing that you didn't think of. See, I was a little unsure about that at first, because at first it seems like he's doing a Barry Zuckercorn, where like,
what did I miss? What did you miss? You're the lawyer.
Well, because he keeps like fumbling, and then she's pointing out the things to him. So I thought it was like, oh god, he's gonna be the worst fucking attorney, right? And then after that, he's like, no, like he's on top of the legalities here. He's just kind of.
I
is not on the same wavelength.
Delivering all that message
she
and
goes,
then holding off and then pause and then everything goes down and then they circle back to him to say that the house also goes to
yeah.
Such a great
That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought it was a Barry Zuckerberg thing. Slash the doctor in Arrested Development who keeps giving them, like, half the story.
Right.
And they, he's all right. He's missing his left hand. You said he was all right. Yes, he is all right. We lost him. Oh my god, he's dead. No, he's not dead. He escaped. We can't find him. We lost him. But then the funny thing was, like, later on, like, he like, what about this? Yeah, no, that doesn't apply here. What about the Slayer wall? Yeah, it doesn't apply. She's not, like, it's a suicide, so whatever. But then was it Ransom or was it Linda? One of them goes, well, you're fucking useless. He goes, thank God.
Yeah.
He goes to get up and leave.
I think it was Richard.
The best part about that was, I don't know why, I love that it all worked out, that Rian Johnson got Frank Oz to come back for The Last Jedi, and then I guess they must have struck up some friendship where I need to have Frank Oz in my movie now. And it was great because I leaned over to Gianna and said, do you know who that is? She goes, no. I was like, that's Frank Oz.
She's like, no.
I was like, he's done some, like, writing, some directing, he's acting, a lot of stuff with puppets. She goes, oh. Specifically Yoda. She's like, oh. I was like, yeah, you never would have guessed based on looking at him and listening to him talk that was Yoda, right? She goes, no.
That's funny. That's great. So yeah, well, no one knows. I understand where you're coming from. Where, like, oh, is this like a thing, like where she lied to them about where she came from? But then it becomes very clear when they're having their political conversation in, like, the study or whatever room they're in. It was just like, oh god, this is about to get so awful.
Well, yes, it became obvious.
It's so funny.
No, she didn't lie to them. It's none of them have paid close enough attention.
Yeah.
To know.
So there's a couple of.
Which also, by the way, we never got the answer, did we?
I do think you find out very early on. I think either she says it or Meg says it. Either way, Meg would have the right information about Marta.
Which is funny because all of them were shitty, right? And then at the end, she says to Benoit, I feel bad for all of them. I feel like I should help them. What do you think I should do? He goes, I have my own opinions on all of that, but I'm not going to share it with you. I'm sure you'll just follow your heart. And me and John in that moment were doing, like, the math, and it was like, well, I feel like she could help Meg.
Yeah,
like,
she
Meg
will help Meg.
Wasn't great, but, like, she was distinctly the least worst of all of them.
Meg made a mistake because of the pressure of her family, but otherwise, she was an actually good person. It seemed like
she made a panic mistake, but was never actively seeking to hurt her or anyone else. Whereas everyone else was trying to hurt someone or fuck someone over or get one over on someone.
So I've got a couple of lines written down here that I thought were just tremendous. So first well, obviously there was the Nazi one that I used in the intro, but the first one I have here are dogs are the best judge of character. That was another thing that was going to be like a subtle nod.
Well, that was how I knew Ransom was going to be.
Oh yeah, and involved
in the end because. Well, not just the dogs barking, but there was one specific thing when he said, read back, he talked to Lieutenant Lee, he said, read back to me all the things. He says, just talking about the creaky stairs and her not being able to sleep, and she says, and then the dogs were barking at 3 a.m, and then they just leave that one alone, because they gave explanation for all of it, right? It was, the first person walked upstairs, and this person walked downstairs, and this person walked upstairs, and then this thing fell, and all that stuff. The dogs were barking at 3 a.m. And then the first time we see Ransom, the dogs start barking at him, but that's 5 minutes after the dogs saw Marta and they didn't bark at her. And I was like, oh, so Ransom clearly was sneaking around at some point. I'm just curious to see how
it all comes down.
What role he played, like, you know what I mean? But I knew that, he was always a red herring, to get my Clue reference in here.
Communism was always a red herring.
Was always a red herring. Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing, a couple of things here. So, this is a simple aside that's just in the middle of these notes of quotes. But Trooper Wagner...
These notes of quotes?
Yeah. Trooper Wagner is the audience, which is just amazing.
Another aside about your aside, when he's first on screen and he's, like, standing a little bit in the background... the theater that we were in was a little weird. It's, like, very narrow and very long, so I was like sitting physically very far away from the screen, and I couldn't like quite make out his face. I heard his voice, and I thought it was Pete Holmes.
Yeah.
And I got really excited.
I love that, man. Another great line. What is this, CSI KFC? That was
Yes, of course.
tremendous.
He goes, when you got your whole foghorn, leghorn, something else. He made some other reference. Like, he said, like, or maybe he just said your KFC foghorn, leghorn thing going on. You know, what exactly is going on here?
So the other thing was the quote that I used in the intro to Intro Al, the actual context of it, when Benoit says it, it's just it's so throwaway that is what makes it so funny. Is what did the Nazi masturbating in the bathroom say? Like the way that he just throws that out there, it was just so funny.
I like that whole progression too. Oh, our son has very political feelings, and then it's like, oh yeah, he's like an alt-right, like Nazi, like troll, and then it's
yeah. A will reading is like a community theater production of a tax return.
Yeah,
that was good. And then the lawyer saying, "Did you just Google that?" Was pretty great. This one's is kind of a quote. The grandmother laughing and breaking the tension in that scene is amazing. So they're all in the room together, and I think they find out that Marta's. I don't know if it's the one where they find out Marta's going to get the money. It might be after that, but the information is delivered that is serious, and the grandmother goes, and she hasn't like really made a noise the whole movie except for, "Grandson, are you back already?" Which is again super early and telling, but you don't know what the concept, what's going on to provoke that. But
yeah. I thought it was interesting, yeah, like oh, Ransom, are you leaving? And it's, oh, Ransom, are you back again already? And I didn't quite, like, I knew it was going to pay off where she was going to end up ratting on Ransom. I just didn't get the idea that, oh, you're back.
And there's your Rian Johnson importance of words thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. This movie's so much fun.
And so much of it was, like, because there's so many, like, this is meant to be an updated version of like the ensemble thing, right? Where it's like, oh, this isn't your grandfather. Like it was similar to Clue or Murder Orient Express or anything with like a big ensemble where everyone has their role to fill, not just in the movie, but in like the archetypes of the type of people you run into, right? And it's the very 2019 version. It's not just some, asshole kid. It's, no, he's a Twitter Nazi, right? Like, it's not just...
It's for the times.
Some girl in college. She's an SJW, like, feminazi, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just... there was some of these kids were meant to be kind of Trump kids, like, literally his children, like, allegorically. Yeah. There was... The Toni Collette character was... I assume they were making fun of Gwyneth Paltrow. There was... I mean, the whole situation with Marta is, loaded as well. And then that whole conversation, so very on the nose, disturbing how not only have I heard conversations like that, I think verbatim I've heard that exact conversation. Like, to 95% degree of accuracy of the exact same words. Like, in the exact same order. It's like, oh shit, this is... Today, man.
The only other...
What was the name of the company that she had?
Who?
The daughter-in-law, Toni Collette.
Oh, crap. I don't remember the name of it.
I can't remember. It was something with a G, and that's why I doubly thought it was supposed to be. Yeah. Because what's her name? Yep. Was that the name of her fucking shit? Like, like it is... Oh, and also like even the line that she said, it's about self-empowered people, or it's about... No, it was self-sufficient people understanding the need for others or something like that, or the need for the help of others or something like that. It's like, God, do you hear yourself?
The only other quote that I had written down was Lieutenant Elliot's quote, "This guy pretty much lives on a clue board," which was perfect.
Yes, perfect. Yes. The other thing was, it was like... the importance of language, but it also ended up doubling for the slapstick nature of some of the aspects of this movie. When Fran was ODing on the morphine, and she goes, "It was you."
Oh my god, it's so good. She wasn't saying it was you. She was saying it was Hugh.
It was you
because he makes the servants call him that asshole.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's what it was. Yeah, it's Ransom. Only the help calls me Hugh. It's another. It's like it seems like a throwaway line. Like, oh, this guy's a douchebag. No, it was literally the key to the whole thing.
Also,
was
his
her
name
saying
is
it
Ransom.
was Hugh.
Like,
yeah, Hugh Ransom Drysdale. What the fuck?
Oh my god, man! I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I just had such a blast watch. It was just so entertaining through and through.
It's incredible how they were able to create this coherent thing when it alternates so wildly and so quickly between being, like I said, this like serious, like razor sharp like thing, whether it be a razor sharp allegory or like just like this tightly paced, like written like dialogue between characters, like the repartee between them, and then it jumps to the slapstick nature of like it was you know what I mean? Like, and then it jumps back to being this like whip smart thing they're talking about, like whether it be political or social issues, allegorically or just directly on the nose. You know what I mean? Like jumping between all of these things, and it never felt like I got whiplash from all of that. You know what I mean? Like it never felt out of place.
No, it was all. It's all very. It's like woven very nicely together. It's so fun. All I want to do is so it even has the murder mystery exposition scene with Benoit Blanc, and even that is just so exciting.
Also, every time someone says Benoit Blanc, I keep thinking of an archer, Benoit Balls.
Yeah, of course. It's like on top of that, like he has that exposition, but it's also sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, sorry. Going back to he has that exposition, but going back to the donut. His whole donut soliloquy, and he brings it back to that when he's doing the exposition, like he's like explaining his thought process, and that made me chuckle so much because I circled back to him starting to think that out loud in the car with Marta, and how that became such a prominent thing later on.
Yeah, I remember when he was first doing it, I was like, okay, like he's doing like the thing where he's trying, like he's reaching, he's grasping, and it's like, okay, no, now it's turning into a joke. And then they bring the joke back, and then they deepen it, like they go fully down the rabbit hole.
Nice.
I didn't expect to hear them joking about that.
What was funny to me is like it reminds me of the scene where he's in the car and he's listening to the music and Marta's inside, and it almost reminds me of Boondock Saints when Willem Dafoe's character has the music on and he's figuring the thing out, but then the ambulance pulls up and he's like, oh shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many like things that would have felt like non sequiturs because they like don't fit with the movie, but somehow they all fit together perfectly.
So good. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. This movie is tremendous. It's one of the best of the year.
Yes, it's a lot better than it really has any right to be. It's performed really well. Most of it is, no one gets too. There's a couple of scenes where it's like you get a real quick second or 10 of someone acting, right? You know what I mean? But it's a lot of people having fun. There was some super campy stuff with Daniel Craig, with Chris Evans, with Christopher Plummer, like just like leaning into the thing. It was funny, very early on in his time when he's trying to play the good guy, when Ransom saves her and brings her to the thing, and he's sitting in the thing and he's wearing the cable knit sweater and he's a little bit effusive. I actually thought he was like a much more grounded version, especially at this early on, like from what we're seeing. Oh, he's never worked, and he's a trust fund kid, and he's got like the old car, and he's got the nice clothes, and someone made a reference to him and his fashion and all that. And I was getting some David Rose vibes, but like much less. Flamboyant, obviously, but there was I was getting some David Rose vibes, and I probably wouldn't have if I didn't just watch all of Schitt's Creek in the last few months.
That's kind of funny. I got to see we went to see the cast of Schitt's Creek live, and it was hysterical. They were really funny. It was a lot of fun. Knives Out. Obviously, if you've gotten I'd be curious to see the subsect of listeners that have gotten this far without seeing the movie.
Oh.
And I encourage you to write in because I want to know who you are, Brian. That's all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthesix@spintune.com or tweet us at @thespintune. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo. Al, eat shit. Thanks for coming out. To watch. Here we go. It's gonna happen every week. I'm so glad you finally saw the third episode. I did a good job of completely concealing what's gonna happen. Right? Like it's not. I didn't give away any John Wick vibes.
Yeah. No, because I was funny. I would have just assumed you would have said that because it's not really that spoilery.
I just didn't want because the way that it happens in that third episode, the way that like. It all goes down and it becomes this crazy gunfight. Like, I wouldn't want to hint towards that because you don't realize how intense it's about to get, and I feel like that adds to the experience. But it was so good. Also,
it was very well done. It was like tense and frenetic inside, and then it's these overwhelming odds. But really, I got that super like John Wick feel. Not even from the fighting. It was when he's trying to leave. And all of the fobs start going off, and then he starts looking around, and there's someone down the street.
It's so good.
The crowd and heads are turning, and it reminded me of John Wick when he's on the run, and everyone is looking at him. That was really what got me, despite all of the other action.
There are three things that happen in that final sequence that are just A+. One is the fobs all going off. Two is shooting Carl Weathers in the metal. Because that's what happened when he gets shot. You know that because they showed you very clearly he was putting the steel in his pocket right there where he shot him. So that was great. And then the third thing is him just unscrewing the ball and giving it to Baby.
Oh, yeah. Which I said, that's
joking hazard. Yeah, but all right. So tell me what you think about that third episode, though, because it did seem, like I said, a little early on, it feels a little slow to get going. And
you sold that and that where you said, oh, it's like really slow for a while. They get into him stalking the den and getting ready to go like pretty early on. But even that, like the quote unquote slow stuff early on, there's movement, there's story, there's interaction, there's dialogue, there's character development. There's a lot going on.
I feel like it means more after the fact.
I don't know, to a certain extent. I mean, like when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, like we're finally getting some answers. Maybe not a lot of them, maybe not the big ones, but we're getting stuff. We get to see him interact, the importance of how many people were sent after Baby Yoda. There was him.
I can't wait till we can stop calling him Baby Yoda.
I know. I would love to call him anything else, except there's just literally nothing better to call him. There's him talking to Grief. Grief being, effusive in his praise, advertising to everyone that this is my friend and he gets the best of whatever he wants and whatever I want. And, it's... I wondered if Mando is gonna make a point of it then that he's got Beskar. I wondered if he was like, I'll give you anything ever. Give me that Beskar. Like you don't get to have that because we know how important it is for that to be returned to Mandalorians, right? It's a big question I have. Did he shoot Grief to kill because it was so perfectly placed a shot? He knew that he had the Beskar. He had put it there. Did he shoot him there on purpose because he didn't want to kill Grief, but understood why it was that he was acting this way? Or did Grief just get lucky? I feel like luck shouldn't play into this in this part.
I feel like it's the former.
I say both characters probably have to know that it was intentionally done. Does Grief put down his guns in this regard, knowing that he could have ended him there and he chose not to?
I'd like to think so. I do think that it is an intentional who shot first setup. Except that I don't think that they're going to go back and redoctor it where he shoots him and he dies. Like that's.
Well, I would assume not. like that they gave us a bit more, although I was very frustrated because they didn't give us very much more, and they gave us much more in episode 4, right, of the Mandalorian culture, the importance of not just the armor, but that you cannot remove the helmet. I'm confused by this because I've seen Mandalorians remove their helmets before in the Clone Wars and in Rebels, right. So I wonder what that's all about. Yeah. Is this something they adopted after the Purge? Because this, I don't think, is a historical thing of theirs. Are they only allowed to remove their helmets alongside other Mandalorians?
This is the way.
We got another great line. I have spoken, and now we have it is the way. I said to my brother Dominic, it's this is going to go up alongside of and maybe supplant the greater good. You remember from Hot Fuzz? The greater good, because we do that around here as a joke every once in a while, and it is the way feels like it could overlap with that pretty substantially.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so that being said, that was 3. That was last week. This week was 4. We got. I mean, jumping right into it. That ATST, that was the first time that you had brought this up in a chat with me earlier this week. That's you get the real gravity of an ATST. It's scary,
yes,
and it's dangerous, and it's.
I've never been afraid of an ATST.
No, because you could just
AT-AT, sure. ATST is
chicken walker.
We're gonna find a way to deal with it. Some random scrub is gonna get lit up by it, but I got the heroes.
In JFO, it's the easiest thing to kill.
Yeah, I didn't struggle with it at all.
No, I don't even get a hit on me when I'm attacking it. But in this situation, the red eyes, though, that was clutch. Right?
And that was, I think, really the big Bryce Dallas Howard inspiration. Because I thought about it in the moment, and then everyone that followed up writing about it was said the same things. Heavy Jurassic Park vibes, right? The way the camera is at a down angle, showing you how much taller and intimidating it is. The red eyes, that kind of demonic, otherworldly aspect of it as it's coming out of the forest towards you. It's similar to the first time you saw a T-Rex show up, right? The thunk, thunk, thunk as it, the fixed camera sits there and this thing approaches onto the screen, and get that just like you said, that gravity of, oh, this thing is big and bad, and I need to be worried about this shit. This is going to come in and fuck up my day big time.
What also added to that was it made it scary. I was terrified of it, and then when it didn't step forward into the trap, I was like, "Come on, you're blowing it!" I was so mad, and I'm just glad that in the end it eventually does step in, and we get that payoff of it collapsing.
You wouldn't appreciate Chekhov's koi pond not paying off?
That really pissed me off.
I was a little confused by that, though, because did it not step into the pond originally just because it was concerned about getting close to the village? Or did it identify the pond? Because if it identified the pond...
Why did it step later? I think it's still the former, because it almost... Here's one of those things with those ATSTs. In every Star Wars video game, there's a point where you can get yourself close enough where instead of having to worry about the blasters, you need to worry about the feet. And I feel like it itself knows that it can't really do enough effectively in its close proximity, that it was trying to stay back a little bit to be at a more... Which is the only way that this thing makes sense. Because if it really did recognize it and then eventually goes to step into it, it didn't get angry. It's a pilot inside that would have recognized it. I just hope that that's not the case.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many times you get shot in the face. You shouldn't then walk forward. Find another solution.
Right. Yeah, that was funny. And it was a good episode. It was a lot of fun. It was some quick, exciting build up. You can almost believe that the character thinks that he's going to be okay for a little bit, and then isn't.
Well, I didn't quite get it until after the fact, but apparently they were just hanging out in that village for a couple of weeks after they win.
Yeah.
I assumed it was a day or two. It was oh no, they've been here for a while. That is not customary of all of this. I was surprised how quickly they were just going to throw Cara Dune to the winds. I'm sure that won't be the last we see of her, but I'm just surprised that they... I'm not sure how they're going to meet up again. You know what I mean?
I imagine getting off the planet to some degree.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is, like, she's gone her own way. He's going.
Yeah, like what's going to bring them back together
with his ship? You know what I mean? Like he's on the run. So how are they going to reconnect?
You know what I liked? It was we have a design language for this show, and that is the blaster sound post a very split second cutaway from where you think it came from, and I like that. Okay, so what's the implication, right? So like when it happened in the second, was it the first episode or the second episode? Second episode.
It's about the implication.
It's about the implication. In the second episode, when you hear the shot and then eventually the droid falls.
No, it was the very last
first episode. And then in this episode, you hear the shot, and I was just like, first off, honestly, the way that they did it, I was like, holy shit, they killed Baby Yoda. Like, I was like, after the broth scene, they killed him? Like, that is unacceptable.
Well, two things. One, they're going to have to stop playing with our hearts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's going to give up Baby Yoda. No, he's not. Oh, they're going to shoot Baby Yoda. No, they're not. No, you cut the shit.
You know what else I like about this whole Baby Yoda thing is they keep referring to Yoda as his child, and it dawns on me that nobody knows what he looks like under there. Maybe they think it's his child.
I suppose it's entirely plausible, though unlikely. Yeah. But the second thing is, after the broth, we've reached a point of no return. Because I immediately grasped the gravity of that scene. When it happened, I texted you and Brian later that night. I think it was later that night. It was the next day. Top 5 Star Wars moments. And I felt like it was hyperbole. I don't think it is.
It happened on screen and you just pointed at the screen and went, meme. Meme!
Basically, it happened. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a whole ass thing that happens now. And it took like 2 days, and it's now the biggest meme. And I said to Brian, I was like, oh, this is going to supplant the Kermit sipping tea thing. Not realizing the link he sent me, literally the subtitle was, is this the new Kermit sipping tea thing? Him sipping the broth. It's so fucking perfect. It was great. For as great as the memes are, as great as the visual is, in the context of the actual scene, it's even better because it's this super tense scene that comes to a head and everything gets super quiet and you hear him sipping the broth before you see him. And I was like, oh my god, he came out and he's drinking the broth. And there he is just sipping his little broth, watching it. It's like something out of like the Knocked Out, right? Where it's like, oh, buy him some bone broth. I'll be back. Watch the kid. And it's like, what the fuck? Yep. And then, like, they're just going to fight for 5 minutes, and then he's just out there sipping his little broth on his own. Like, what the fuck?
I also, leading up to that, though, that intense, like, fight sequence with the Smith and Neo gun to each other's head, even though they weren't empty, was pretty cool. And then, just a... it was so good.
Also, by the way, I didn't pick up on it at first when I first watched it, probably because it's been a while and also because I'm used to seeing it animated. How cool is that there was a loaf cat in the bar? You're watching Rebels now, so you
I thought that's what, for some early on, you had told me like to watch out for something that's going to make me jump or something like that. And you were referring to the red eyes of the ATST. But
yes, I said something that's absolutely horrifying.
Early on, I thought you were being silly. And early on in the episode, I was like, is this what he was talking about? Because it dives, like it like jumps out and meows or growls or whatever it is.
No, I said when you see it, you'll know it.
Oh, man.
This was a really good episode. It was an interesting diversion, but I'm a little concerned because we're running out of time. Because, like, we got some really
I'm not concerned.
Story. No, we got some really good story in 3 after not having much story in 1 and 2. And now this one really didn't have much story. We only have 4 more episodes left. Like, I want something tangible, you know what I mean? Like, I want something, like, we have, it's about this character, these characters, fine, but, like, sorry, eventually you have to be some thing that this is, like, working to in a big picture sense, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. I'm certain of it. I'm enjoying the ride, for sure.
Oh, I'm still enjoying it. It's still a really good, fun episode. I'm doing the math, and I'm like, oh, fuck, we're running out of time for, like, the import of this series. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
the only reason I'm not overly concerned is if you know from past experiences, like, you can get so much in 5 minutes that, like, I'm not overly concerned with how much time they have left to deliver.
Sure, I just know that if you can do it that good for 5 minutes, you can do it good for 30 minutes. Sure. So I want...
You say that now, and next time we check in, it's like the most insane episode that we've seen.
Well, because we did get a lot of follow-up to character development stuff, as I indicated when we were talking about episode 3. The follow-up where he really clearly lays out the rules about why he can't take the helmet off, what it means to him, and all that sort of stuff. And then he takes the helmet off, but we don't see him. No one sees him. And then, he says he's not quite the zealot you might think. Do you ever take it off? Well, yeah, when I sleep. I'm not a fucking psychopath. Right. I take my helmet off when I sleep. And then she goes to take it off later, and then he won't let her, and it's like, oh, eventually we're gonna see it.
Are we?
And it's just a question of what the circumstances
I hope we don't.
It could literally be the final scene of the final episode of this season. We're gonna
Do you think we really are?
I mean, listen, nothing is certain, but I feel fairly strongly that we will. It's like the whole idea of, like, the Chekhov's gun. Like, you keep talking about the helmet, and you can't take the helmet off. He's going to take the helmet.
One of my favorite things with Halo and the storyline is you never see his face. You don't know what he looks like underneath. And I think it was maybe the third or fourth game, he's like going back into like a cryo sleep type thing, and the thing comes down to the machine comes down to take his helmet off, and it pulls it off, and then like the camera's then shown from the back, and then you don't see what's underneath. And I just think that's such a cool thing. I kind of like the idea of like not revealing it, or if like revealing it has to mean something. If it's just regular guy underneath, what's really the point?
Well, the point will be what the circumstances for it coming off.
Okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's what it is. It's not just going to be a little Easter egg thing. It's like we've laid out the rules are pretty serious about
take his helmet off. Weren't you in Game of
Thrones? Yeah, so I imagine that he will... listen, maybe it's not this season, maybe it's next season, but I feel like it would be the moment, that's how you do it, is in the final episode, probably in the final scene, you know what I mean? And there has to be a reason. It's not just going to be, well, that was a long day, you know what I mean? And he pops the helmet. Like, there's going to be... someone takes his helmet off, or he has to take it off for whatever reason. You know?
Even better, he just has an itch in one episode, and he just can't. He takes the helmet off, scratches it, puts the helmet back on, boom.
That would be funny, but it's like that would be like they even played around with that with Darth Vader, right? Where he takes his helmet off in Empire, and you see him putting it back on. You see out of focus, you see the back of his scalp. You know what I mean? Yeah,
all jacked up from the high ground. Cool. That's Mando Watch. I have spoken.
Mando Watch.